Okay, let's begin. Can everybody hear me, especially those of you online? Yes? Okay, good. So where are you, 關玉？你唔好以為我唔記得喎。你明明話下一堂翻嚟喎，即係而家走數啦，擺到明，係咪先？真係，我唔記得由自可，我記得你就大鑊啦。你會發現都冇乜咁大鑊嘅，不過絕對係冇後果啊！你發現嚇？信佢就咩話？我真係信咗佢，又或者應該咁講啦嚇。女仔嘅説話真係未必信得過啊嘛，係咪啊？得罪好多人係嘛？得罪好多人我都要講啊，大佬真係。我作為一個男仔就係經常都相信女仔嘅説話，係嘛？可惡，竟然收翻個 like 先，俾翻個 like，太可惡真係。Okay, so let's take a look at the exercise we have to discuss today. And are you really in my class? Oh, really? I haven't seen you. I guess. Yeah, okay. Good. But you are the only one. Okay, very good. Okay, so today we'll be looking at this exercise from week 7. All right, once again. 咁啊，上次咧就未講晒嘅，咁所以咧今日我哋都會特別咧就講埋最後呢個部分啦。OK 嚇，好彩雖然冇關喐呢啲走數嘅同學，同埋冇咗軒優呢啲一直都喺度嘅同學嚇，我有啲新嘅支持者翻咗嚟，我唔稀罕你哋啦，你哋咪走咯嚇。正所謂一雞死一雞鳴啊。OK 嚇，即係 come and go， 你會發現就係冇咗你哋，我依然過得好好啊。OK， 好明顯有啲酸味。All right 嚇，咁啊去翻呢度先。不過 ，all right 有做嘢係嘛 ？Okay, so let's take a look at the questions that we have discussed so far. So if you remember, the scenario is about this boy, okay, the family, okay 嚇，大家都應該仲認得呢個僆仔啦，係咪？咁一家三口喺個公園度玩，咁我哋就睇緊咧關於一啲 personality personal identity 嘅一啲 topics 啦。咁啊之前喺嗰個 make up 嘅 tutorial 裏邊咧，我哋就討論到去到呢個部分嘅。OK， 咁我哋睇過咧嗰個媽咪點樣透過嘅溝通咧去即係表達咗一啲 direct definitions 嘅 ideas 啦。 咁啊有一啲標籤定義咗個小朋友係點啦，同埋呢啲 life scripts 所謂一啲人生大道理、做人嘅宗旨點樣去咧，令到佢哋認識到作為男仔女仔嘅角色係點樣。But we haven't finished discussing everything, okay, from this part, okay? So although we have already studied basically all the 3 lines said by the mother, but there is a hidden expectation from line 1, okay? 雖然其實我哋已經睇晒咧個媽咪講嗰幾句嘢嘅一啲期望啊，男仔女仔，但係你發覺其實 line 1咧都仲有一個隱藏嘅期望嘅。Okay, so previously when we tried to look at line 1, we focused on the role of a man, okay, the expectation of a man. So Jeremy, why don't you push Emma so she can swing? 嗰陣時我哋就 focus 咗喺男仔嗰個角色嗰度。當個媽咪同佢講話，喂 Jeremy 推下你家姐打千秋啦咁樣，咁我哋就睇到咧，對於男仔嘅期望就係、男仔要幫女仔嘅。咁但係你發現咧，其實同一句説話咧，我哋可以調翻轉喺個女仔嘅角度度睇翻咧。對女仔嘅期望，呢個係咧一個隱藏嘅一個 expectation， 我哋未睇到嘅咁所以今日我哋會睇埋啦，希望。So what do you see from line 1 that can tell you something about the expectation of a woman? What do we expect from a woman when you try to look at the same line? 如果用另一個角度去睇翻呢一句説話嘅時候，有啲乜嘢對於女仔嘅期望我哋可以睇到呢？ Take care by a man. I would not say that it is a perfect answer. The direction is right, 關玉。OK 雖然個人冇翻嚟不過好彩咧，答嘅嘢都有少少方向喺呢度。不過你會發覺咧嗰個講法咧唔係好通嘅，點解咧？因為你見到頭先又或者之前我哋一直所提出嘅嗰啲期望咧，對於嗰兩性嘅期望，都係一啲佢哋可以做嘅嘢嚟噶嘛。咁但係你而家呢度話期望一個女性係 take care by a man， 咁得意，好似爭少少。點樣可以將呢個講法講得合理翻啲咧？因為你而家見到佢前面我哋睇嗰啲嘅期望咧，都係嗰個性別可以做嘅一啲嘢嚟噶嘛。咁然後話一個女仔，我哋期望佢做嘅嘢就係去 take care， 但係又被一個男仔 take care， 好奇怪。係啦 ，very good，excellent， 關玉 ，OK，to rely on man，very good，OK，真係，我真係冇辦法，我發覺你呢個人咧，真係當住咁多同學面，我都講過好多次嘅，你呢個人係真係令人又愛又恨，冇錯，就係、又要唔翻嚟，又要即係嘴串串咁樣但係與此同時咧，上堂又好似好多表現嘅喎，唔知你咪特登嘅喎，嗰個反差嘅即係感覺令到人哋特別記得你係咪要 ？OK，so to rely on men definitely，OK，又或者可能隔離班咧，你見到咧都會有呢個講法，同一個意思啫，不過就to depend on men， 依靠男性呢一樣嘢。你發覺呢一個期望咧喺呢句説話度咧係隱藏咗嘅。當然最正路嘅睇法咧，你見到嗰句説話同個細路講，個男仔講噶嘛。OK， 喂，推個家姐打千秋啦咁樣咁我哋知道男仔要幫女仔。咁但係與此同時，如果你換個角度咧，你會睇得出咧，對於女仔嘅期望就喺呢度啦。譬如可能喺呢個 case 裏邊啦，女仔使唔使自己打千秋啊？唔使咯，揾個男仔幫你打咪得咯。OK 咁所以你會見到就係嗰種咧。依靠男性，靠晒男仔幫你做所有嘢，係嘛？嗰一件事 ，OK。So it's very true for many societies that we have this expectation for women，OK 尤其是對於亞洲嘅社會，當然你呢個 case 係西方社會啦，但係對於亞洲嘅社會咧，呢一個期望尤其是係明顯啊，係嘛？即係呢度大部分嘅同學都係讀 AA 啦，OK 應該非常了解中國文化。其中一樣嘢就係、對於女仔就係、通常都冇乜期望，女仔最大嘅期望係點咧？揾個好嘅男仔，係嘛？嫁個好嘅老公，係嘛？唔需要做咁多嘢，唔需要咁叻嘅嗰種咯。Alright， 咁所以你見到呢度千秋都唔使自己打，揾個男人幫你打。OK， 嗰件事。Alright， 咁呢度有啲嘢都要留意喎。個寫法咧，我想提一提你啫。其實我之前都提過你好多次啊，不過再提你。 係嘛？嗰個寫法咧，我哋要留意係講緊對於呢一啲性別現實嘅一個期望咧，寫出嚟嘅時候嗰個寫法係咁樣咯。OK， 因為譬如好似隔離班咧，有啲同學咧會講就係話乜嘢 should 乜嘢嗰啲寫法咧women should 點點點咧，嗰個寫法同我哋寫 script 嗰個寫法咧係唔一樣嘅。嗰個乜嘢 should 乜嘢嗰個寫法，或者全部人都應該係咁嗰個寫法係 stereotype 嘅寫法咯。因為我哋係講緊推斷成 group 人都應該會係咁啊，即係譬如 all women should blah blah blah，OK， 嗰個係 stereotype 嘅。但係呢個真係現實佢會做嘅嗰個期望咧，我哋嘅寫法就會係有少少分別嚇。因為你期望佢咁啫，唔代表佢現實都一定會係做呢樣嘢噶嘛。咁所以我哋個寫法咧，去到個期望嘅時候要留意翻咁樣做。All right, very good. And there's also another thing that I like to tell you. OK， 咁你見到呢度咧，其實個 scenario 短短地得3句咯，但係已經展示咗咧好多對於男仔啊女仔嘅兩性嘅一啲期望，你見到出咗嚟嚇。其實仲有一個咧，不過同呢個 scenario 冇關，不過我都想講下嘅嚇。你會發覺當你對比翻男仔同女仔嗰啲期望咧，喺好多社會都係嘅。你發覺對男仔嘅期望咧係好似比較寬鬆一啲嘅，對女仔嘅期望咧要求高少少，尤其是譬如第3個呢度。OK，so a woman is expected to stay clean and tidy。OK。除咗之前我哋都睇過咧，喺嗰個 line 嗰度咧，佢要注意儀容啊、整潔嗰方面嘅嘢之外咧，你發覺咧，可能有其他同學都會留意到就係，對於女性咧，儀態嗰方面咧，都係其中一個要求。不過當然喺呢度冇特別提及嘅，但係我都想講下嘅儀態嗰個要求係嘛？所以就係話啦，翻嚟上堂咧就多好多視聽嘅享受啊！你發現係嘛？平時淨係得個聽字，正所謂淨係耳朵懷孕啊！依家唔係。OK， 翻到嚟都可以有視聽娛樂嘅享受。呢個係做乜嘢咧？得一個人睇到呢個表演，不過好可惜，係啦。大家坐嘅時候啊，如果你係女仔，有啲咩要求啊？咩事啊？人哋係咁樣形容噶嘛，我引用翻啫。坐喺度有咩要求啊？女仔係咯，拍埋隻腳啊嘛。尤其是如果你着裙仔嘅時候咧，就更加要拍埋隻腳嚟坐。OK， 但係如果你試過拍埋隻腳咧，呢度係唯一一個女同學啦。OK， 同埋其他2個嚟 sit 堂嘅都係女同學。嗱，如果你係女仔咧，你會知道建議開 cam， 你自己唔翻嚟啫，係嘛？黐線啦，冇玩啦。咁但係你發現咧就係啦，夾住對腳坐咧係用力好多、攰好多噶嘛。一定最舒服嘅坐姿係點啊？擘開對腳咯。嗱，所以你翻嚟咧，你見到呢一幕啦。我而家係春光乍泄嘅，你發現走晒光，但係你冇機會睇到啦，變咗係嘛？關喐你唔翻嚟，但係你會知道咧就係咧一定最 relax 係咁咯。咁但係點解我又知夾腳呢一樣嘢咧？即係嗰個要求咧，因為我有個細妹噶嘛。OK， 咁啊細個嘅時候，我阿妹咧個坐嘅方式咧都會俾我阿爸阿媽咧管理住噶嘛。尤其是如果着裙嘅時候就會，哎呀你合埋對腳坐啦，係嘛？走晒光啦嚇，唔應該咁啊女仔係嘛？咁但係如果我咧點坐都冇問題嘅，瞓喺度都冇問題嘅嚇。咁啊，所以你會見到嗰個儀態上面嘅要求咧，都係高啲啊。對於女仔嚇，男仔就好似咧乜都冇所謂咁樣嚇，呢一種情況。All right. So now we come back to the final bit of the question. So it's on the family role this time for the life script. 之前我哋已經講晒咧，基本上咧所有對於性別嘅一啲期望啦，個 life script 即係男仔應該係即係喺現實度個期望做啲咩嘅咧？女仔就個現實嘅期望做啲咩咧？咁而家今次咧去回歸翻就係嗰個家庭嘅角色啦。Okay, so family roles. So when you try to consider the role of Emma and Jeremy in this family, what do we expect from people like them in a family? And again, you can see that this expectation is very true for all people having this family role in a family. What do we expect from people like Emma and Jeremy? 有啲乜嘢我哋要求好似 Emma、Jeremy 呢啲角色嘅人係做得到嘅咧？喺尤其是佢個家庭嘅嗰個角色。What do we expect from people like Emma and Jeremy? Any idea? Well, first of all, you have to consider their family roles, okay? And what do you expect from people like Emma and Jeremy? 有啲咩期望我哋要求 Emma、Jeremy 呢啲人做嘅咧 ？Yes, any suggestion? Help each other. Then it's not actually the case for Emma and Jeremy 卓意 No, not really. 你要考慮翻頭先話佢個家庭嘅角色啊。如果你就咁話幫大家手咁樣，咁你未特別考慮到佢喺呢個屋企嘅角色 For Emma 同 Jeremy. Not really. So who are they in this family? And what do we expect people like Emma and Jeremy in a family to do? Take care of each other? Then it's still the same. They take care of each other and help each other 冇分別嘅喎，關於淑英呢個 expected to protect family members, especially women. 咁咪即係咪住先？邊度可以睇到一個咁嘅咧？保護女性，同埋佢都係5歲啫喎，大佬咁高期望嘅點解？點解我發覺你哋成日都咁高期望嘅？對於 Jeremy 好慘，我發現真係頭先隔離班咧就話覺得 Jeremy 要take care of 個 family 添啊，大佬擔起頭家，你有冇考慮到佢幾多歲啊？喺 background 度，佢5歲嘅咋，大佬你要擔起頭家，會唔會做得太多啊？大佬，即係譬如你呢個 protect family members 好似太犀利喎，5歲。如果真係有人要嚟傷害 family 嘅話，5歲做唔到啲咩㗎啫嘛，一腳踢死佢啦。OK， 好似太誇張咯喎。同埋你而家話兄妹咁樣即係如果佢唔係兄妹就唔使咁做啦，係咪？唔係，你考慮翻佢哋兩個共同嘅角色喺呢個家庭入邊。OK，BB 一出世係嘛 ，feel 到 face to face 同我耳仔有啲慘，梗唔係啦，你哋慘啲啊嘛。我唔想問下 face to face 同我慘唔慘係嘛 ？Yes, what do we expect for people like from people like Emma and Jeremy？ 對於 Emma、Jeremy 呢啲角色嘅人，佢呢個家庭首先佢咩身份先 ？And what do we expect people like these to do? That's the thing。所以你要了解翻嗰個 question 係咩？係啦 ，yes 關於 kids， 佢哋係細路嚟嘅啫嘛，喺呢個屋企裏邊。咁我哋 expect 細路仔做咩咧？呢樣嘢你當然應該要知啊，你都做過細路仔。Play。Are you sure? Not really. Life scripts 喎，而家講緊真係一個佢到成世仔都跟住學習嘅呢一樣嘢嚟嘅喎。即係 life script 你知道係一個人生嘅大道理，做人宗旨嚟㗎嘛。Study 你都睇到。喺個公園度玩下，大佬叫佢攞本書出嚟啊，係嘛？喂，唔好玩啊！攞本書出嚟，攞本書出嚟睇下先，玩10分鐘好啦，跟住攞本書出嚟睇下再玩，咁啊，咁恐怖嘅，好彩你唔係我阿媽啫。Yes, what do we expect for kids? And you can see that it's very true for every single kid in a family. 所以就話考慮佢個家庭嘅角色啊嘛，咁佢係小朋友嚟㗎嘛。咁我哋 expect 小朋友做啲咩咧？喺一個家庭入邊，當然你喺成個 scenario 都係睇緊呢件事啦。Learn to follow moral rules 咁誇張，淑英就咁喺公園度玩下，仲要學埋道德嘅價值，大佬有邊啲道德位啊？我想睇下，即係叫佢擒上去就係擒上一個道德嘅高地，係嘛？原來有個咁嘅意境喺背後嘅。Jeremy 擒到幾高啊？道德高地嚟講，我自己諗起都想笑，大佬係嘛？佢5歲咋，大佬都係啦。你諗得簡單啲，好簡單嘅嗰樣嘢。小朋友喺一個屋企裏邊要點做？佢個家庭嘅角色，佢係小朋友，所以佢要咁做啦。當然 ，yes 天佑 ，OK 關於 obedient，yes man，OK，yes obedient，listen to parents 呢個最簡單啦，係咪？小朋友聽教聽話啊嘛，聽父母話啊嘛。所以你譬如睇翻成個 scenario， 全部都係例子嚟㗎。我唔特登 call 啦。我叫你推個家姐，你就要推；我叫你擒，你就擒；我叫你落翻嚟，你就落翻嚟，咁啊嘛，係咪？你從來唔聽話。咁但係而家講緊佢俾嗰個 expectation 佢啊，但係你爹哋媽咪唔會要求你唔聽話㗎嘛，係嘛？軒優你唔使聽我話嘅，自己有獨立思考，係嘛？咁樣。 So to be obedient or to listen to the parents 咁當然如果你要舉例嘅時候咧，喺裏邊好多例子啊，係嘛？叫佢推個家姐，佢推個家姐叫佢擒，佢擒嗰啲位咯。OK， 咁但係小朋友係一個家庭嘅角色 ，OK， 要聽父母話 ，OK。你從來唔聽話係咪就係我想呢一堂嗰陣時講嗰個例子？你就係 BB 曳曳嗰個例子，你就係原來一細個睇得出你呢個反叛嘅性格。So now let's move on to the question that we have to finish, question 2. So what do Jeremy's and Emma's responses to Kate suggest about the acceptance of the views of them? So do you think Jeremy and Emma accept the expectation given by their mother? Yes or no? 佢哋接唔接受媽媽俾佢哋嘅期望 according to the scenario? And where do you see a yes or where do you see a no? Yes? Yes 即係點啊 ？For both or what? 關喐去到 week 10咧，記得答問題嘅時候咧，唔好再答到咁唔完整啦。你答完之後，你要 support 翻個 answer 噶嘛？同埋就咁樣一個 yes， 咁邊個咧？係 Emma 啊 ，Jeremy 啊，兩個都係啊。同埋喺邊度 show 到係 yes 咧？答得完整啲喎，week 10就唔好再答問題答到咁模棱兩可噶咯喎。Yes, where do you see a yes and who is a yes or is it both? Yes, any suggestions? So did Emma and Jeremy follow the expectations from the mother? Yes or no? And where do you see some examples to support your answer? 點樣？邊度可以顯示到有冇接受爹哋媽咪？唔係冇爹哋喺度，接受媽咪嘅期望，定係唔接受？ Where do you see a yes or where do you see a no? Where do you see that? Emma walks over to the swing at the end. So what does that mean, ye men? 都係啦，點解仲係唔完整嘅個答案 ？Yes 定 no 同埋邊度 ？Once Emma blah blah show end yes. Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! 點解咁多個 Oh my god 咧？因為喺今日咧本身你哋第3堂 tutorial 啦我呢番説話頭先嗰兩個 tutorial 都講咗一次㗎啦，就係咩咧？我教佢呢個 course 都相當嘅時間，我今日係第一次咧聽到咧有人覺得 Emma 咧係 yes 嘅，接受咗個媽咪對佢嘅期望。頭先第一堂試過，啱啱第2堂試過有2個人，所以第2、第3個，而家有第4、第5、第6個啦，睇嚟係嘛？點解你哋會覺得係 yes 嘅咧？唔應該係 yes 嘅喎。Have you studied the dialogue carefully？ 有冇睇清楚發生咩事啊？如果你哋即係譬如好似 Shuk Yan 同 E-Man 咧，淨係 focus 喺最尾嗰件事嘅時候咧，你梗係覺得佢係 yes 啦。但係佢唔係 yes 嘅喎。如果你睇翻成個 scenario 清清楚楚嘅時候，你淨係 focus 喺最尾打千秋呢個位，同埋你記唔記得先？你記唔記得條片嗰度做乜嘢先？嗰個 Emma 即係嗰個肥妹啊 ，OK？ 你記得佢臨尾去到打千秋嗰陣時好開心咩？唔係好開心嘅喎。你而家話佢真係聽嘅話，就佢應該好樂意接受嘅，就會好開心啦。大家都係啦，唔翻嚟啊睇唔到呢個表演啊！大家記唔記得喺個片段入面個肥妹嬲爆爆咁走去打千秋啊，叉住條腰咁樣走去打千秋噶嘛，好開心咁奔跑向個千秋度咩 ？No! So it's definitely not accepting the expectation from the mother. Why would you say yes? 阿威春同埋寬旭講 Jeremy 之前講埋 Emma 先 ，OK？ 所以 Emma 係 no 嘅其實。但係邊度睇到 no 咧？所以你冇理由忽略咗嗰個前文後理嘅喎，正所謂。Yes, okay. Where do you see that, Wai Chun? Which part? Yes, line 3, very good 係啦，呢啲 answer 先係㗎嘛，完整地講翻邊個 line number 同埋邊 part 啊嘛，之前都講過啦。你 give 個 answer，跟住再 support 翻 answer with line number 同埋嗰個 quote 㗎嘛，之前教你有3個部分㗎嘛，你答問題記得啦。So in line 3, if you try to read the dialogue once again, all right? 所以你哋如果 focus 喺淨係佢最尾打千秋嗰個位咧，你就好似話佢聽話喎咁樣。但係你明知佢明明係不情願地走去打千秋噶嘛，所以你要睇翻成件事喺 line 3呢度較後嘅位置咧，你見到啦。當佢阿媽叫佢唔好擒 ，OK，careful honey, don't go any higher, you could fall and hurt yourself。但係個細路女有冇聽到咧？冇喎。Emma ignores her mother and reaches for a high bar， 跟住佢先夾硬俾人捉翻落嚟噶嘛，見唔見到咧？ Emma, I told you that's too dangerous. Okay, time to get down. Why didn't you play on the swings? 夾硬捉佢落嚟，佢先嬲爆爆走去打千秋，好明顯係唔願意㗎啦，係嘛？如果唔係點解要捉翻佢落嚟咧？咁所以如果你淨係 focus 喺最尾去打千秋嗰個位嘅時候咧，你就忽略咗明明佢係 reject 咗佢阿媽個建議佢照擒上去㗎嘛。OK， 咁所以呢度要留意翻啦。呢度知唔知發生咩事先？頭先連續幾個雖然關於個 yes 原來係唔清楚係邊個 yes 嘅，但係譬如好似 E-man 同埋 Shuk-yan 搞清楚未先？所以你唔可以忽略佢前面發生過嗰件事嘅喎。同埋如果你尤其是留意啲即係仔細啲嘅話咧譬如隔離班有啲同學咧，佢都會睇到咧喺嗰個 dialogue 再前少少咧，你見到都仲有一啲端倪可以睇得到嘅。嗰個細路佢擒高。冇嘢啦，係嘛？個阿媽你見到咧 line 3稍後位置，個阿媽見到個男仔擒高咧，仲好開心添㗎嘛。OK，so Kate laughs and clap her hands to applaud him。OK， 即係如果你記得個片段咧好開心啊個仔擒得咁高係嘛？擒上呢個道德高地嘅時候 OK， 咁但係你見到咧個女仔係呢度有咩回應啊 ？Jealous of the attention Jeremy is getting。Emma runs over to the jungle gym and starts climbing。OK， 佢就係妒忌點解個細佬做呢樣嘢，媽咪讚佢嘅，等佢又試下先。點知佢一試就完全係另一個結果啊嘛，俾阿媽鬧佢又捉翻佢落嚟。咁所以你會見到就係佢完全係唔接受呢件事噶嘛。OK， 即係點解細佬擒就得，我擒唔掂嘅咧？係嘛？呢一樣嘢咯。所以你哋清唔清楚先 ？Shuk-yan 同埋 E-man 搞翻清楚先喎呢個位。OK。咁所以我哋要睇翻前面發生嘅嘢嘅，同埋如果你 focus 喺真係佢行去打千秋咧，你都知佢嬲爆爆嘅其實。OK。So what about Jeremy now? So some said yes for Jeremy, Wai Chun. So line 1, why don't you push Emma so she can swing? Obey the order from Kate. Yes, OK。呢個 line 1都係一個好嘅例子嚟嘅。寬喐呢個都係。不過你發覺其實有一個更好嘅例子嘅，一陣你會知點解嗰個更好啦。Line 1都係 OK 嘅，我唔係話 Line 1係有問題 ，Line 1都係 OK 嘅，即係你見到佢接受咗媽咪對佢呢啲嘅指示期望去做，但係你發覺有一個 line 咧係更加好嘅。Which one is a better example, showing that Jeremy accepts the expectation from the mother？邊度你睇到佢係非常之接受咧？Yes, line 3. Encouraged by the mother, climbs to the top bar, holds up a fist, and say something. Yes, OK 所以其實成個 line 3稍後呢個位置咧，你都可以攞嚟用到。同埋點解呢個會係一個更加好嘅例子咧？你更加可以對比翻佢同佢嗰個家姐嘅分別啊嘛。同埋另一方面咧 ，line 3呢個位置咧。除咗個行為方面頭先 line 1嗰個都係一個好嘅例子嚟嘅，不過淨係 focus 咗一個行為嗰度接受咗咯。但係你見到呢度 line 3咧，好似 E-man call 呢一 part 出嚟咧，佢甚至乎內心嘅諗法都講埋出嚟啊嘛。OK， 所以你見到 line 3呢個位置啦 ，encouraged by his mother, Jeremy climbs to the top bars and holds up a fist, screaming
Look at me, Mom. I'm king of the hill. Okay?
你見到就係用一個咁樣嘅興奮嘅心態咧，上到去呢個道德嘅高地啦，係嘛？咁啊，所以你會見到咧，就係、絕對咧係一個非常之好嘅例子咧，去俾你睇到佢接受呢一樣嘢啦，係嘛？一陣講下，好似真係有呢個道德教育喺裏邊咁，其實明明冇嘅，OK？Okay, so when you try to look at line 3, this particular part, you can see that from the boy's action as well as his words, okay, how he accepts the expectation given by the mother, okay 嚇。咁所以 line 3咧係一個更加好嘅例子啦。不過頭先同我講 line 1咧都 OK 嘅，不過你可能要解釋多少少咯。即係佢聽完佢阿媽叫佢推個家姐，跟住佢就真係接受個指示啦，跟住做啦呢一樣嘢咁但係 line 3咧會有一個更加好咧，可以做埋對比啦，同埋咧你可以睇埋佢個內心嘅諗法啊嘛。OK， 你睇佢幾 happy， 當佢登上呢個高地嘅時候。All right. So when you try to look at the exercise once again, you can see something about our personality being shaped by the communication given by these primary caregivers. OK 我哋上堂都講過咧，就係話即係嗰個自我嘅嗰個性格咧，就係、3歲定80啦透過父母啦嗰、個教育啦灌輸咗呢啲嘅觀念俾我哋啦，咁然後就令到我哋大個呢個性格啦，又或者個行為咧都會有所嘅變化。咁當然如果 question 2俾到我哋嘅啟示係點樣咧？譬如好似 Jeremy 咁樣，你見到佢接受晒媽咪對佢嘅期望咧，你會 expect 所以咧佢3歲定80啦，去到變成大人嘅時候咧，就會係一個比較典型啲嘅男仔啦真係會做翻咧頭先上面 question 1我哋睇到對男仔嘅期望。但係對於嗰個肥妹咧你見到就唔係咯喎 ，OK， 好明顯咧，當佢 reject 咗呢樣嘢嘅時候咧，你可以想像到咧，佢去到大個嘅時候咧，未必係我哋想像到 stereotypically 一個好典型嘅女仔啦 ，OK 咁你見到就係要挑戰自己係嘛，就係唔聽媽咪嘅指示要做一啲男仔都做到嘅嘢，可能有機會比較男仔頭一啲嘅一個女仔可能出現咗啦。Okay, so we have finished the discussion here for tutorial 7. And now we try to move on to a new one. But before that, do you have any questions? 有冇咩問題先？關於啱啱呢一個 exercise? Yes? Any questions? Clear. Okay. So now let's move on to another exercise, this time from week 8. So it's on the topic, intercultural communication, all right, as we know. So if you have your textbook with you, then it will be on your textbook page 169, okay, and particularly 170, because the full dialogue would be there on page 170. So let's read through the background information very quickly, okay, to see what happens. So we have the scenario here called the job interview, okay. So Mei Ying Young is a graduating senior. Well, of course, from the name of the person, you know she's a Chinese, okay? So Mei Ying Young. So a Chinese girl, okay? And definitely we have to learn something about the Chinese culture in this exercise, where we know is about intercultural communication. So like many college students, Mei Ying loves technology, okay? So I guess for teenagers, for young people, we are all fascinated, okay, by technology, IT stuff, okay? But of course, it's very unusual for Mei Ying Young this time. So unlike many of her peers, however, she's particularly fascinated by programming, okay? 咁當然，如果你話對科技有興趣咧，好多後生仔都會啦。 但係個問題係佢有興趣到甚至乎係讀埋 IT 嘅嘢添。All right. Well, of course, we know stereotypically, if you know the term, IT dogs. Okay, we know that IT dogs would be boys, girls, would be not IT dogs very often. But then we have Mei Ying, okay, being an IT doc, okay, studying programming, IT. So in her senior year, she developed and installed complex new programs to make advising more efficient and to reduce the frustration and errors in registration for courses, okay? Well, I guess from your experience of using, the airdrop system, the airdrop system is pretty rubbish, okay? But for Mei Ying, okay, she has developed programs to improve the airdrop system. So really great work done in IT, all right? 咁所以唔單止對 IT 有興趣啊，甚至乎真係咧做到一啲幾勁嘅嘢出嚟。根據大家做 airdrop 嘅經驗都會知道啦咁所以咧佢竟然可以咧寫到一啲 program 去改善到呢件事咧，實在係非同小可啦。So although she has been in the United States for 6 years, in many ways, okay, Mei Ying reflects the Chinese culture where she was born and where she spent the first 15 years of her life, okay? So you can see that Mei Ying is a Chinese girl, okay, deeply influenced by her Chinese culture. But now she is studying in the US and looking for a job in the US. And it's a different culture. It's a totally different culture. So we have to learn something about that kind of intercultural conflict, okay? 你話建議 CC 揾下佢係嘛？一陣間你就知你揾唔揾佢啦，你想唔想揾佢啦 ？All right， 就算佢咁猛料。So today, Mei Ying is interviewing for a position at New Thinking, a fast-growing tech company that specializes in developing programs tailored to the needs of individual companies. The interviewer, Barton Ingham, is 32 years old and a native of California, where New Thinking is based. As the scenario opens, Ms. Young walks into a small room in which Mr. Ingham is seated behind a desk, and he rises to greet her and walks over with his hand outstretched to shake hers. So when you try to look at the last bit of this background information, you see already some sort of cultural difference, okay, we have in the Western culture and the Chinese culture. Well, I'm not sure if you're invited to some sort of interview in the Chinese culture or in Hong Kong, but usually when you are invited to an interview, you can expect a very serious context, okay? So the interviewers would be sitting in the room, looking very seriously, waiting for you to come in, all right? But then for Western culture, you see, the interviewer would try to come out and welcome the interviewees to their interview. So it's very different culture already when you try to read the last bit of the background information. So now let's take a look at the question we have to discuss. 1. Okay, well, particularly, especially with the time we have today, we'll be only finishing question 1. So let's just focus on question 1. How does Mei Ying's communication reflect her socialization in Chinese culture? All right. So later on, you have to study the dialogue, okay, on page 170, and especially when you watch the video, you may also notice how Mei Ying communicates in the interview, how she performs in the interview. That would be reflecting the traditional Chinese culture where she was born and influenced by. OK 咁所以咧，我哋尤其是要睇下咧，佢個 interview 入邊咧點樣喺個溝通度反映翻呢種影響到佢咁深嘅中國文化咧。All right. So now I'm going to play you the video, and at the same time, you may want to read the dialogue once again on page 170 for more details.
Mei Ying Young is a senior who has majored in computer programming. Mei Ying's aptitude for computer programming has earned her much attention at her college. Although she has been in the United States for 6 years, in many ways, Mei Ying reflects the Chinese culture where she was born and where she spent the first 15 years of her life. Today, Mei Ying is interviewing for a position at New Thinking, a fast-growing tech company. The interviewer, Barton Hingham, is 32 years old and a native of California, where New Thinking is based.
I've been looking forward to meeting you. Your resume is very impressive. I'll be asking you questions about your background and interests, and you can feel free to ask me any questions you have about the company, okay?
Yes.
Great. I see from your transcript that you majored in computer programming and did very well. I certainly didn't have this many A's on my college transcript.
Thank you. I'm very fortunate to have good teachers.
So tell me a little bit about your experience in writing original programs for business applications.
I do not have great experience, but I am grateful to the college for some of its work.
Tell me about how you've helped the college. I see you designed a program for advising. Can you tell me a little bit about what you did to develop that program?
Not really so much. I could see that much of advising is based on rules, so I only needed to write a program simple enough for the advisors to use.
Perhaps you're being too modest. I've done enough programming to know how difficult it is to write a program for something as complex as college advising. You've got so many requirements and regulations and majors. How did you program for all those variations?
I read the handbook on advising and the regulations on each major, then programmed decision trees on each advising template. It was not that hard.
Well, that's exactly the kind of project that we do at New Thinking. People come to us with problems in their jobs, and we write programs to help solve them. Does that sound like something you'd be interested in doing?
Yes, I very much like to solve problems to help others.
What was your favorite course during college?
They were all very valuable. I enjoyed them all.
But did you have one course in particular in which you felt you did especially well?
I would not say that. I try to do well in all my courses to learn as much as I can.
Did you find any good prospects today?
Not really. There was this one woman who had this amazing resume, and she'd done some incredibly intricate programming in college.
Sounds good.
I thought so too until the interview, but she just didn't seem to have any of the gusto that we want. She just lacked all confidence and initiative. It was like the transcript and the person were totally different.
That's odd. Usually when we see people who look that good on paper, the interview is just a formality.
Yeah, well, I guess the formality is more important than we realized. She was a total dud in the interview. I still don't know what to make of it.
Okay, so you've seen the performance of Mei Ying in the interview, all right? So before we come back to the questions, okay, sorry, it's not this one. So before we come back to the questions of this exercise, let's have a guess over the performance, okay, or the results, I should say. So the result of the interview. Do you think the company will hire Mei Ying? Do you think Mei Ying will be hired by this company? Yes or no? No. Why not? 咁都唔請? You can see that she scores many A's, high GPA, and of course developing this program to improve airdrop system. So great experience. What's her problem? 點解咁勁都唔請呢? What's her problem? Okay, so interview performance sucks, but how? 可唔可以講得具體少少呢? Yes, very good, Kwan Yok. Exactly. It's poor communication. Exactly. Very good. Okay? Confidence. Wai Chun. That's part of it, but that's not the key factor leading to a job, I guess. Wai Chun. Okay? 都有唔少人呢，當我問呢個問題嘅時候呢，第一個反應啊，所以咧呢度呢就做得好啲啦嚇。第一個反應呢，啲人覺得點解佢會唔請佢呢？都係話佢信心嘅問題。乜原來而家揾工咁簡單嘅啫咩？有信心就揾到啦，冇信心就唔使做啦，係咪？信心都唔係最重要嗰樣嘢，最重要係困喐呢個 point。Poor communication, as you can see, all right？ 佢個 communication 嗰度出現咗問題啊嘛，就係嘛？笑咩啊？直頭要 like 添嘛，呢度係 ，OK？ 正如我之前上堂都成日俾唔少 tips 你啦，不過你哋不屑啫係嘛？叫你温書你就當我講笑，係咪先？啊，跟住而家話俾你聽啦 ，communication 呢樣嘢之前我話俾你聽啦，喺 interview 嗰度，譬如好似 Mei Ying 咁樣，哇個 CV 咁靚，又攞咁多 A， 咁多 experience， 咁都唔請，係嘛？原來就係個 communication 出現問題。咁當然喺呢個 course 裏邊，我哋尤其是特別會真係要睇佢個 communication 咩事啦，係咪？咁所以咧，當然個 focus 最主要都係呢個 communication 事嚇。咁啊信心咧都係其次，最重要係嗰個 communication 咧出現咗問題。So now we come back to the question now. How does Mei Ying's communication reflect her socialization in Chinese culture? All right. 咁當然呢個 background information 我哋知道咧，Mei Ying呢個女仔咧就係深受自己 中國嘅文化影響，但係佢而家喺西方國家度讀書同見工喎，咁會有啲咩問題咧？所以就係啦，喺個溝通上面點樣反映翻出嚟咧？ Well, first of all, if we need to summarize the idea of traditional Chinese culture in one single idea, what would that be? According to what we discussed in the lecture. Anybody? How do we summarize Chinese culture in one single idea? Still remember something from a discussion in the lecture? 你要好簡單概括到總括中華文化乜嘢一回事 ？Yes, very good. Hinyao. Okay. So that's the idea. Collectivism. 集體主義啦，冇錯啦，非常之好啊。So when you try to look at the idea of collectivism, okay, definitely it is in contrast to the idea of individualism on the other hand. So what's the focus of this cultural ideology? Focus 係咩度嘅咧 ？Collectivism， 以至到一陣間我哋去睇翻阿 May 英喺呢個 interview 嘅 performance 咧，你都睇翻相同嘅一啲特色出嚟。Shrink itself, okay? Yes, that's right, Shuk Yan. But what about the focus then? 呢個係換咗個角度去講呢件事。咁究竟會 focus 係咩咧？即係如果你話佢貶低自己，咁但係個 focus 會擺咗咩咧？喺 collectivism 入邊。咁所以亦都相對於 individualism 你會知道啦。So people regard it as interconnected, but how about one single word to summarize everything? 當然呢個係嗰個 definition 啊，然後咁但係如果你真係要概括 collectivism 嘅 focus 會係點咧 ？What's that single idea, single word that can be useful? Focus 喺咩度 ？Collectivism。相對於 individualism 嘅 focus 就好明顯啦。咁所以你會知道相對於 individualism 咧，當然就 focus 喺呢度啦。Focus on others, yes. Or you may also say 相對於 individual 嘅話，咁會即係 focus 喺咩咧？你 others 都冇錯嘅，所以不過咧，你會發覺所以更加好嘅概括喺呢度係咩咧 ？What's the focus？ 相對於 individual，yes group。Exactly， 正如你做 assignment 都係啦，有 group assignment 同埋 individual assignment 噶嘛。So it's focus on group or focus on others basically, okay? As you say. So now we try to look at the communication by Mei Ying now that would be reflecting that kind of nature in collectivism. 好啦，真係回歸翻咧佢所講嘅説話啦。邊度可以睇到呢個特性咧 ？So focus on other things or group.Okay, rather than herself under collectivism. So definitely you have to have your textbook, okay, so that you can see more clearly the words said by Mei Ying. So where do you see a tendency to focus on group or other things rather than herself in the interview? When you try to look at how she performed.Yes, where do you see that? Okay, so Shuk Yan, okay, line 5, Kwan Yuk. So I'm very fortunate to have good teachers. Yes, exactly. So if you try to look at line 5, okay, at the very beginning, 我哋首先睇下 line 5先啦。咁啊喺呢度咧 project 出嚟嘅呢個就係 line 4啦 ，OK 嚇。咁啊 line 5你見到佢講嘅啲咩咧 ？Thank you, I'm very fortunate to have good teachers。咁佢呢句係回應緊咧，就係 line 4呢個 interviewer 問佢呢樣嘢嘅，又或者講到嘅呢樣嘢啦。So I see from a transcript that you majored in computer programming and did very well. I certainly did not have this many A's on my college transcript. 首先 line 4咧嗰個 interviewer 就話：哇，你讀書幾勁喎，係嘛？即係我都冇你攞得咁多 A 喎，咁樣啦嚇。咁啊，如果一般嘅情況嚟講咧，應該可能你就會真係講下即係自己點叻點勁啦嚇，攞咁多 A。但係你見到阿 Mei Ying 嘅 line 5嘅答案係點啊 ？Thank you, I'm very fortunate to have good teachers. Okay. What is the point being used to explain her success under line 5？我哋先講晒呢堆先嚇，唔好跳得咁快住。 咁所以係攞咗啲咩嚟去解釋佢嘅成就咧 ？If you need to use one single idea from line 5 to summarize it， 所以係關咩事咧？請問 line 5根據佢所講嘅 ，giving merits to the group yes， but what about her words in line 5？ 所以個原因攞 A 嘅原因一個字 teachers yes exactly。So the teachers 就係啲老師咯，好老師嘅幫手。咁當然後尾咧都見到其他同學仲有其他 ideas 啊，例如 line 7，alright。line 7呢個回應咧，當然啦，你都要去睇翻咧，其實佢係就住個 interviewer 乜嘢嘅問題去作出嘅咧。咁你所以可以睇翻 line 6即係啱啱頭先 teachers 後邊嗰句啦。Tell me a little bit about your experience in writing original programs for business applications。OK 咁嗰個 interviewer 就問佢：喂，可唔可以講下你寫 program 嗰啲經驗嚟聽下？咁我而家係見一份咁嘅工，咁當然會問佢呢樣嘢啦。咁但係你見到 line 7佢點答啊 ？I don't have great experience, but I've been grateful to help the college with some of his work. OK， 咁好啦，如果頭先佢用到老師去解釋自己嘅成就，今次咧 ，what is that thing that she used to explain her success?College, yes, exactly. 你見到佢講咩啊？幫到學院咧，我係好開心嘅。OK， 人哋明明問你喺 programming 有咩經驗，你就話幫到學院好開心，都係嗰種咧 focus 咗喺個 group 啊、個團體啊，又或者可能講緊其他嘢方面因為一般嚟講問你有咩經驗，你梗係講翻你有咩經驗㗎啦，係咪？但係佢唔係啦。咁跟住我見到咧都有同學咧，阿軒優一嘢已經跳咗落去 line 13啦。咁但係你發覺中間都仲有好多例子嘅，我哋可以睇埋中間嗰啲先嘅。OK，so if you try to look at the dialogue again， 咁除咗 line 5、line 7之外咧，跟住咧當然你亦都可以想像到啦，個 interviewer 對於咧尾英啲答案咧都唔係咁滿意嘅。咁所以你見到 line 8咧佢咁講啦 ，Tell me about how you've helped the college。blah blah blah. Can you explain to me what you did to develop the program？ 咁所以就係啦，佢話幫學院好開心。咁然後你見呢啲話，咁你點幫學院先 ？OK？ 咁所以佢都要真係要了解清楚啦。咁佢就問啦，咁你就究竟做咗啲乜嘢啊？嗰個 program？ 咁然後你見到 line 9啊，今次 line 9佢今次用咩理由去解釋佢個成就咧 ？When you try to read line 9, not really so much.I could see that much of advising is based on rules, so I need to write the rules in the program so advisors can do their job more better. Yes, rules. 今次 line 9咧，佢就話冇啊，都係跟翻啲守則啲指引去做嘅啫。咁今次咧就話個 rules 咧就係個原因啦。咁但係你會發現咧，呢啲問題嘅答法咧係有問題嘅。所以點解我哋話佢個溝通出現問題啊？你見到咧，去到 line 10個 interviewer 咧講咗句咁嘅説話 ，Perhaps you're being too modest，OK？即係你個人太謙咯，好似太謙卑咯 ，OK？I've done enough programming myself to know how difficult it is to develop a program. So how did you program all that variation？ 因為本身嗰個人自己都去做 programming 啦，係嘛？咁佢咁講佢話跟翻啲守則搞掂，我做到隻狗咁啊，大佬我知有幾難啊！你太謙虛啦，咁佢問你，咁究竟你做咗啲咩啊？係嘛？咁然後去到 line 11咧，你又見到佢呢個傾向出咗嚟啦，都係咧唔會將個功勞攬上自己嗰度嘅，因為唔係 individualism 啊嘛。咁佢今次點講啊 ？Yes, OK, is the handbook. So I read the handbook on advising, blah blah. 冇啊，我都係跟翻本手冊嘅啫 ，OK。咁你見到咧一路嗰啲答案，當然包括埋咧頭先軒優所講 line 13啊，係嘛？跟住問佢咁你即係對於我哋做嘅嘢，你覺得點啊？跟住話好開心啊，幫到其他人，係嘛？你見到佢所有嗰啲答案咧，個答法咧都係一個咁樣嘅傾向出咗嚟。 所以其實都唔淨止係呢4個 line 嘅，當然佢包括埋頭先軒優所講嗰個 help others 嗰個位啦。咁今次當然就直接話埋俾人 others 添啦嚇。但係你發覺佢成個 interview 咧，所有啲答問題嘅方式咧，都係一個咁嘅傾向，一個好 collectivist 嘅 nature。All right, so focusing on groups, other people, other things, rather than the person themselves, himself, herself。OK 嚇。咁所以你見到同 individualism 咧係一個非常大強烈嘅對比出咗嚟啦嚇，唔會將啲功勞咧，又或者將嗰件事咧係指向自己咧去做個解釋嘅。咁所以亦都會咧，點解中華文化呢一樣嘢成日俾人個感覺就係咁咧嚇？你見到個 interview 喺 line 10都咁講，就係俾人個感覺點啊？好 modest 啊，好似好謙卑喎，好似好謙虛喎，咁嘅情況出現咗啦。咁但係呢度我想問你一樣嘢，講得好聽啲就謙虛啫，講得唔好聽係點啊？如果你問有條友呢啲問題，佢咁樣答你啊，我有啲好嘅老師啊，幫到學院好開心，係嘛？你覺得佢點？你覺唔覺得佢謙虛？咁你覺得佢點？係咯，好假啦，大佬係咪啊？咁你都答得出，覺得佢自己廢，咁你都諗到，關喐。即係如果有人咁樣答你嘅時候，啊冇啊，我咁多 A 啊，都係有啲好嘅老師啦嚇，幫到學院啊好開心啦咁樣，跟住話哇你自己咁廢嘅你，咁啊，咁你都諗到嘅，關喐係嘛？靠人 carry 咩啊？佢咁去幫學院咁點啊？佢自己 develop 個 add drop 嗰個 system 咁點計先？靠人 carry 佢自己做㗎，大佬係啦，即係所以講得好聽咧，你覺得佢好謙虛，但係講得唔好聽係點啊？喂，好假啊，大佬係咪先？明明啲 A 係你自己考嘅 ，OK？ 你話靠人 carry， 靠唔到咁多人 carry 啫，係咪啊？咁同埋你嗰啲 develop 嗰啲 program 都係你嘅成就嚟㗎嘛？咁但係點知你樣樣嘢都唔關自己事，係咪？So how would you summarize the type of communication style favored by collectivist culture, according to our discussion? What do we call this type of What do we call this type of communication? And especially when you try to look at the answers given by Mei Ying, it is a reflection of that communication style. What is that communication style? Again, 呢種係乜嘢嘅溝通方式呢？請問，根據我哋上堂所講嘅 Yes, what do we call this type of communication style? That would be favored by collectivist culture. And that's the style of communication of Mei Ying as well. 講埋呢度落堂啦。Yes, what's the style of communication? We have discussed that in the lecture. You should know. What do we call this style of communication? Yes, high context communication style. Exactly. All right? 係啊，就係一個所謂 high context 嘅 communication style 啦。呢種 high context 嘅 communication style 咧，如果你睇翻我哋之前討論過嘅內容啦，有啲咩特色啊？ So it's indirect, implicit and undetailed。OK， 啲嘢會講得好間接啊，好隱晦啊，唔清唔楚啊咁嘅情況咯。當然，如果你睇翻佢嗰啲答案咧，就係所以點解有啲同學都會覺得，喂，點解條友好似答非所問咁樣嘅咧？就係因為喺嗰個 high context 嘅 communication style 咧，我哋係一個 group 噶嘛。你知我咩意思㗎啦，我唔使講得咁清楚㗎啦，係咪？同埋如果你仔細啲睇翻個 dialogue 咧，你發現咧個 interviewer 問嗰個問題啊，仲仔細仲長過佢答嗰個答案添。OK 嚇，咁所以當然就係一個咧典型嘅 high context 嘅 communication style 出現咗啦。Okay, so that's why we say Mei Ying's communication in this interview is not really satisfactory, because it's not fitting the Western culture of individualism. OK， 咁所以你會見到咧，即係點解咧佢嗰個 performance 就未如理想啦？明明個 CV 咁靚，係嘛 ？GPA 又高啦，應該咁多 A 又成咁又 develop 咗呢個咁勁嘅嘢去改善翻 add drop system。係嘛？所以頭先啊，關旭仲話要請佢嚟 CC， 你請唔請佢啊？而家佢咁嘅溝通方式係嘛？就係呢件事啦。 All right, so definitely, okay, you see something about culture and communication in this scenario. So we'll be finishing the rest of the questions later on in another tutorial class. And then next week, we'll be looking at a new topic, by the way, okay, 之前都未講到，依家要講啦 ，OK， 依家要爆啦。下個禮拜知唔知發生咩事？下個禮拜咧，我哋將會進入一個咧，可以話係呢個 course 裏邊最高潮嘅一個 topic 啊！知唔知下個禮拜講咩？咁多位少男少女都非常之關心嘅，就係 the topic of love。OK， 我哋會一齊談談情，説説愛。OK 啊，下個禮拜你知啊，精彩，非常之內容係精彩嘅 lecture 將會出現啦。OK， 大家期待已久嘅內容。All right， 你睇下靜晒，即刻冇人期待過。All right, so I'll see you next week anyway. In the lecture, we'll be talking about the topic of love.